Hey guys, it's Kevin again, and this is going to be my review for The Americans Season 2, Episode 3, The Walk-In. And this episode was another amazing episode. You know what I'm finding out, guys? Ever since this show has come back, each episode has gotten increasingly better than the last one. Like, the first episode was really, really great. The second episode was really, really great. This episode was better than last week's. I mean, like, they just get better and better every episode, and I'm really loving the direction they're going with this show. It really was just a really great episode, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens next, because I'm really into it. I really am. And I think it's a great show. It's one of the reasons why. I mean, it definitely is one of the best shows on TV. So, let's just get to this episode. So this episode mainly deals with Elizabeth and Philip going on a new mission. Now, again, they're still concerned about this boy, the boy who, the Russian couple that died. All there's left is their son. They're trying to figure out what to do for this boy. What's the best thing to do for him, provide him, basically. And, Elizabeth is getting out of the shower, putting cream on her scar, and Philip is telling her to get dressed because they have to drive to Newport. Elizabeth doesn't want to leave the kids, and Philip says the center is going to put someone on the kids until they go back. So they head downstairs, and Paige and Henry get ready for school. Elizabeth comes down and tells Paige that they may be a little late for work, and she has to look after her brother after school. So Stan's getting ready for work, and that has to do with Stan, sorry. So then Philip and Elizabeth, they're on the road, and Elizabeth tells them that Emmett and Lean's son Jared has been taken in by a family friend of theirs who planned to look out for him after they were murdered. But, I'm sure this happens to a lot of people. They go around saying, if something bad should happen to me, you go with my kids. That's what happened here. He's gone with that family friend. So Elizabeth asks Philip who is supposed to take care of the kids if something happens to them. They don't have, because they don't have any family friends. Their only friends just died. So, still, Elizabeth is completely terrified about what is going to happen to Paige and Henry. She's just completely terrified. She doesn't know what to do, and she's just really worried about them. But they decide to actually go undercover into a mill and pretend to be with the moving company, basically probably to see who's available, things like that. And she tells a worker she's looking for the CNC, but he says it has been moved to Annapolis. And he tells her the blades are still on site, and she asks him to lead her to them. So Philip takes a piece of paper that was taped to the blade, and then what happens is we see that Lean and we then get a flashback here of Lean and Elizabeth. This was the their family friend that died. We basically get to see more of that, and I like seeing those flashbacks in this episode. We saw a flashback of them washing their hands. She says that she wrote her son Jared a letter about what she and Emmett really do and who they really are. And Elizabeth promises if anything ever happens to them, she will give the letter to their son Jared. So now that something bad has happened to them, she needs to give Jared that letter. She really needs to do that. And so she really starts to think about this. She drops Philip off at the train station and heads to Lean and Emmett's house. She heads straight upstairs to the closet where she knows the letter is hidden, pulls out a lockbox, and the letter is exactly where Lean told her it would be. And she arrives at Jared's new home and talks to the woman that brought him in. She tells her she's an agent from Child Protective Services just checking up on him. And she doesn't want him to know she's Elizabeth because, one, his parents don't know about the whole Russian spy thing. They probably don't know about Philip and Elizabeth. And she wants to in a way that doesn't seem, she doesn't want to do it in a weird way. So she's talking alone with him. She's basically ready to tell him at this point. She has the letter. She's ready to tell him the truth. And she tells Jared he's entitled to a leave of absence from school. And no one expects him to go, basically. Basically, he does not have to go to school. Because his parents have died, he does not have to go to school. No one expects him to go. And she warns him that healing is going to be a process and it takes a lot of time. And you see him crying, you see him really upset, and I mean, it's just an amazing scene from Kerry Russell and the boy that played Jared. Just a really amazing scene from the two of them. So she then ends up leaving Jared, and then she has another flashback of when Paige was a newborn baby. Probably thinking, trying to think if it's the right thing to do to give them that letter. So Elizabeth pulls over, and by the way, this amazing song is playing in the background while this is going on. This song called Here Comes the Flood by Peter Gabriel. Amazing song. I just found it on iTunes. Really amazing song. Definitely recommend you guys get that song because they did a great job with that song in that scene. I mean, that worked so... That made the scene so much more heartbreaking than it already was with that song playing. It was so good. And I really love the way the Americans do that, you know. They'll just put on a song, and it works so well with everything. And I love that about the Americans. So she leaves. So as she's pulling over, she lights the letter Liam wanted her to give Jared on fire because she realizes the last thing that he needs to know is that his parents were spies. You know, he's so upset right now. Why tell him now? And so, you know, basically they were spies and they prepared to die for what they believe in, and basically she decides to leave him all alone. Let him do what he wants to do. He will make his own decisions, and I think overall that was the right choice. I think she did make the right choice for him, and I think personally, her not telling him is a very good thing, because if he would have found out, who knows how he would have reacted. He's in a very bad, you know, he's not in the best of moods. His parents just died, so why add that to all the other sadness that's going on in his life? You know, I think she definitely made a good decision there. Now let's go to probably one of my favorite parts of the episode is the Paige storyline. They finally increased the Paige storyline in this episode tremendously. You know, we were getting one scene an episode so far for the first 2 episodes, because this is a slow-paced show, which is not a problem for me. I mean, some slow-paced shows, that's a problem. This is not a problem for me. It's because everything's so interesting that it's not a problem that it's so slow-paced. And it's really, the Paige storyline is really starting to go somewhere in a really cool direction. Definitely, that was one of my favorite parts of the episode. She, as we know, made that call to, that one girl, Helen, and we basically get to find out who Helen is in this episode. So, as Philip and Elizabeth are leaving, you know, once Philip and Elizabeth have left, Paige lies to Henry and says she's going shopping with a few girls after school. He promises not to tell her parents that she's leaving him home alone. You know, she decides to tell him that. And so while this is happening, she's on a bus traveling out of town. She meets this girl on the bus, and she's headed to visit her father. And we basically find out that Helen is actually her aunt. Paige, the person that Paige called Helen, that's her Aunt Helen. And, so she gets in this conversation with this girl. She plans to surprise her, and her new friend gives Paige her phone number before Paige gets off the bus. The interesting thing here is that they had the same exact sort of talk, though, you know. Paige and this new girl have the exact same sort of talk. Her name is Kelly, by the way. Very good actress. You know, that's one of the things that the Americans does well. Very good actress. Again, just really great actress. I'm hoping to see more of her again, because she was a very good actress. She also, you know, her parents were separated just like Paige's, so they have a lot in common. However, it seems kind of suspicious. It really does. So Paige eventually does arrive at the house. She rings the doorbell, and no one ends up answering. No one answers. So she lets herself in. She then calls out for her Aunt Helen, but no one answers. Helen appears and tells Paige she has made her bed for her and calls her Shelley. And Paige is very confused at this point. She tells Helen her name isn't Shelley and explains she's Elizabeth's daughter, and Helen is very confused. She doesn't really know what exactly is going on. So then Paige arrives home, and Philip is really upset at her. This was the only part of the episode I'm like, ugh, this was annoying. Because she lied to Philip saying she's trying out for the debate club, and he told her to sit down and tells her lying will not be tolerated. At the same time thinking, you are lying to your kids. You're not telling them the truth. You're completely not telling them. So what right do you have to tell your daughter that lying will not be tolerated when you're lying to them about being Russian spies? I mean, honestly, it's not a huge problem. I was just thinking that, you know, I was just sort of thinking that Philip was being a bit of a douchebag in that scene. Basically what happens is he tells Paige that Aunt Helen called and thinks her daughter that died in 1974 came to visit her. And Paige explains that Helen is their only living relative and she wanted to meet her. So that's the whole reason Paige went over there. was that she wanted to meet her. However, we know there is still more of this because Paige is still suspicious. You know, she still is very suspicious about this. And what happens is Philip ends up snapping on her and says that his father died when he was 6. And she's very lucky to have a family, have a family with 2 parents who love each other and a brother. She is very lucky to have that. And I thought that was a very good scene. And I enjoyed that scene. I thought that was a nice scene. And then while that music was playing, by the way, remember that great song I said, Here Comes a Flood? There was a Paige scene in that while it was playing. Because Paige actually does not listen to Philip. She ends up locking herself in a room and calls Kelly. And she asks Kelly if she wants to hang out. And she's sneaking out of her parents' house to go meet Kelly. So we're going to have to see what happens here, definitely with Kelly. I'm kind of suspicious about her. I am kind of suspicious about Kelly. I don't know where this is going to go, but I really like the direction that this storyline is going. It's a very cool direction, and I really love that. So that was Paige's plot. And finally, let's get to Stan's plot, which also was increased a lot in this episode. Stan is getting ready for work. His wife, who I forgot that, his wife and him were still married. I thought they separated, but I guess not. His wife gets him coffee. He notices she is dressed, and she says she has a seminar. And it's supposed to transform her life, she says. And she reminds him it's not fun, it's work on herself. And what ends up happening is he's investigating this guy named Bruce Dameron, the KGB's newest spy. Because as we know, he tracks Russian spies. He heads to his office, he finds out he called in sick. So he snoops around his desk. And Bruce's boss says that he may be at the Marquis Hotel for a World Bank event with bankers from all over the world. Very intense scene here, by the way. Really good stuff. Really good stuff, but very intense scene. I really like that. Stan tells Bruce's boss to call 911 and tell them to go to the hotel. Runs out of the building, down to the streets. Stan runs upstairs to the roof of the hotel and sees Bruce with a sniper rifle. He's basically ready to shoot Stan at this point. He pulls out his gun and tells Bruce he is from the FBI and to drop his gun. Now, Bruce, of course, being from the KGB, doesn't listen. So he tells Stan that when he was in Vietnam, he learned that the real enemy are the people that own everything. And Bruce screams, Ronald Reagan doesn't care, tries to shoot Stan, but Stan ends up shooting him and killing him. So Stan has shot another person, and another KGB agent is dead, which really is bad for Philip and Elizabeth, because as we know, he is still tracking, he's still tracking that couple. And they're in even more danger now, because more KGB agents are dying. They're becoming less and less and less. And I think this is going to become a thing of the season where, more KGB agents are going to die eventually. And it's only going to be Philip and Elizabeth. And then they're really going to be screwed if that happens. They're really going to be screwed. And I'm really interested in seeing what's going to happen there, because I thought that was a really big scene. But there's still more to this, because then what happens is Nina is typing up her recent notes about her and Stan. And Oleg wants her to go to a hockey game with him, but she declines, and he leaves her the ticket anyways. So Nina takes her notes to Arcady and points out that Stan has told her that he loves her. So she's starting to think that Stan is definitely getting attached to her. We can clearly see he's getting attached to her. And as we know, this is all strictly business with her. She doesn't want him to get attached to her. So what is she going to do? We really don't know. And that was the episode. And I gotta say, this was a perfect episode. There was nothing wrong with this episode. I loved every minute of this episode. And that song that played at the end, I loved it so much. I'm totally leaving a link for it down below because it was such a great song. It really worked well with the scene. And I really love this episode. There's a lot more going on now. A lot more at stake. One, Elizabeth is now keeping this secret from Jared. Do you think that was the right thing to do? Do you think he's eventually going to find out? I'm thinking he's eventually somehow going to find out about his parents. Also, if she would have told him, then he might have gotten suspicious about her and how she would have known that. Things like that. And then also Paige. Can we trust this Kelly girl? I'm really not sure if we can trust Kelly. I'm really not sure at this point. We're going to have to see. And also, it looks like, more KGB agents are dying. That's going to get worse. And also, Nina, what is Nina going to do with Stan? Is she going to try to break up with him? What's going to happen there? I don't know, but that's it for my review. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in my next video, which will be for tonight's episode of Once Upon a Time. So, see you then. Bye.